The Boss Baby is a cinematic masterpiece that has set the bar higher than it has ever been before, and I personally don't think it'll ever be matched again.
The Templetons were making plans for their newest addition.
What the? Damn!
Meet your new... Now, this might be a controversial fact, considering the outrage that ensued when it was nominated for an Oscar, but I would argue that it wasn't nominated for enough Oscars. If you ask me, an intellectual, the movie would have won every single category. While that might seem absurd to you, I'm here today to really delve deep into this work of art and show to you the hidden layers of depth to this gem.
Stacy, read back the notes.
I can't read. What's it say?
We start off the movie with our main character, Tim Templeton, voiced by the oldest Spider-Man triplet. We see that he's just a normal kid living out his childhood. It shows him in his day-to-day activities living carefree. This is to establish a connection with the character, as we have all had childhoods at one point, which make us relate to the character while having just met him. It's brilliant. This all changes when the titular Oscar-nominated Boss Baby appears. See, before we're fully introduced to the character, we see how babies are really made. It shows that the entire process of baby making is entirely machine driven. This is there to represent how formulaic and routine even the wonder of birth is. Much like how an assembly line in a factory goes through the same processes again and again, we and almost every other species on Earth go through a similar process of just pumping out babies. And then when the babies grow up and become capable, they pump out even more babies. It represents the monotony of life itself and is truly an eye-opening scene. After some shenanigans with the Boss Baby, we get to the part where Tim is eavesdropping onto the baby's meeting, and this is where the movie gets metaphysical. As the Oscar-nominated Boss Baby rolls through his PowerPoint presentation, we see pictures of real-life dogs multiple times throughout the presentation. Nobody questions why the dogs look strange or unusual. This confirms that in the universe of the Oscar-nominated Boss Baby, that our world and their world are coexisting as one. This blurs the line between fiction and reality in such a way that I don't think any other movie has come close to it before. Now, this is just a brief nod to our world, but I'm sure DreamWorks will continue to build on this development as the Boss Baby cinematic universe continues to expand. Now we get to the pacifier scene. There's a quick and subtle innuendo in the scene. See if you can spot it.
I want you to suck it.
You suck it.
No, it's for you to suck.
Ugh, I'm not sucking that.
Suck it.
I don't know where it's been.
It's not where it's been. It's where it will take you.
That may seem like a quick and simple joke for the intellectually minded, but really, it's a metaphor of child ignorance. Much like how children refuse to grow up in a sense, Tim's refusal to suck the pacifier is a representation of that. When Tim finally does suck the pacifier, the innuendo itself becomes the metaphor. By performing the somewhat lewd act, Tim has left his childhood behind to embrace the scary world that lies beyond his child vision. He's left all that behind to look at the world from a different perspective, and that's often one of the steps from childhood to adulthood. Once he sucks into this, there's no going back. After Tim and Oscar-nominated Boss Baby decide to team up, there's this one scene that really stood out to me, and that's the censorship scene. Some might pass it off for a quick laugh, but that would be missing out on the depth of this scene. This scene is a metaphor for censorship in America. We all know that censorship in the United States is a hot topic, so I think it's really brave of DreamWorks to include this in their movie. In this scene, the government is represented by Tim, and the free press is represented by Oscar-nominated Boss Baby. Throughout the scene, Tim is trying to force upon him to wear clothes, but the Boss Baby is adamantly refusing to put on the clothes, much like how the free press resists the government's tyrannical hold over them. But in the end, no matter how much you struggle, the bigger entity always wins, and it's shown when he yields to Tim. This holds true in our world as well. No matter how much the free press struggles for their rights, the government will always have the last say in what the outcome will be.
Oh, I've got one for you too! Ahoy, matey!
Ooh.
What?
We're later introduced to the Forever Puppy, a puppy that never grows old and remains a puppy forever. This is an allegory for childhood. The reason for the adults clamoring on this puppy over their own children is because it's reflective. You ever hear how adults wish they could be kids again? Well, when looking at their own children, they know eventually that they will become just like them one day, a boring, routine-driven machine like themselves. They look at their own children as a temporary comfort to what life was like before. With this new Forever Puppy, it's not just about its cuteness, it's about repressed feelings of a long time gone. They can look at this puppy and be reminded of the good times when life was simple. It's no wonder that this forever puppy has almost everybody in awe. It represents something that almost everybody longs for.
Once I launch my forever puppies to every corner of the world, they'll be so adorable.
Throughout the film, the Oscar-nominated Boss Baby refers to Tim as Templeton.
Templeton.
But when their falling out occurs, it's truly a tragic, heartbreaking moment, and I'm fully man enough to tell you that I sobbed in theaters during this part. But there's this beautiful subtlety to when they make up that I'll just let you watch.
The only way to save both is to stop Francis.
Yeah.
I can't do this without you, Tim.
This is a huge moment in the film because up to this point, he's only referred to him by his last name. This shows the dynamic development between the two, first as mortal enemies, but now as brothers. They're in this together, and it's just a monumental leap of character development with this visual magnum opus. Now this one is a cultural reference for us 90s kids. There's a very magnificently placed but subtle reference to one of the world's most celebrated musicians. You really have to be paying attention to get this, and that's another thing that makes this movie so wonderful. It doesn't treat its audience like babies, no pun intended. It really shows that kids' movies can be smart, and that they can have multiple layers that older audiences can enjoy as well. And that's what makes this Tupac cameo all the more enjoyable, and I think they really got the look down. I almost really thought that Tupac himself was on my TV screen. It really shows how in touch the writers are, and how much they know their demographic.
Hey, baby, hold on.
Oh no, it's been nabbed by some bandito.
At the climax of the movie, you can really see Tim and Boss Baby's relationship soar. The entire movie has led up to this moment, and it does not disappoint. Following their explosive argument not even 15 minutes ago, comes this moment where Tim sings to the Boss Baby. He's infuriated when his parents serenade somebody other than him with this song, showing that he has a special bond with this melody.
Hey, it's my song.
So in this moment, he's willing to put that pettiness aside to save his once mortal enemy, further showing the development of these two marvelous characters. It really is a one-of-a-kind moment, and I'll fully admit I stood up and cheered at this moment at my local cinema. When you make two characters so relatable and likable, it's a difficult task to not immediately shout with joy when an emotional climax appears on screen before you.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly.
By the end of the film, Tim and the newly named Theodore Lindsay are all grown up and are recalling their origin story to Tim's daughter. Now, there's a lot to take in with this scene, so I'll start out with the small stuff. When Tim's daughter asks for a horse, he tosses her $6 to buy one. Now clearly, that's insufficient funds to buy a horse. In our world, that is. In their universe, if this is enough to afford an entire horse, that would mean there is an economic deflation happening within this world. This may seem like a minuscule detail, but it really shows an in-depth look into a larger world than what we see on our screens. It further builds upon what's been established, and I think that's an outstanding way of subtle world building right before our very eyes. It's poetic writing is what it is. The ending blends the fictitious story of Tim's childhood with the reality of the Boss Baby existence itself. It challenges the audience into critical thinking about the world. What is real? What is imaginary? But it never truly answers this question, leaving it to you yourself to figure it out on your own. A good movie poses a question. A masterpiece poses a philosophical inquiry. The next thing to notice is the date when the baby was born. March 31st, 2017. The movie's original release date was March 31st, 2017. I can't even begin to fathom how monumental that is. It's as if the stars and planets aligned for this movie to be as perfect as possible. I calculated the chances of these dates lining up like this, and it's approximately 1 in 4 trillion. Now you might be wondering why I decided to upload this in-depth analysis a day after March 31st. And while I would have really loved to upload this analysis on this superb film's 1-year anniversary, I felt compelled to upload this a day later. I'm not exactly sure why, but it just felt right for some reason. Perhaps that is a metaphor on life itself as well. And that is my in-depth analysis on the Oscar-nominated Boss Baby. This film fundamentally has changed the way I view motion pictures, and is something I highly recommend to all ages. With the announcement of the Boss Baby back in business, or as it's better known, TBBIB, I cannot wait to see the direction in which this story will take. Thank you. And remember to smash that mother flipping like button with all your force! I'll Also, shout out to my boy Logan Paul on reaching his 23rd birthday. Yeah, let's give him some love. Bro to bro. Go smash those mother flipping DMs of his. Low Gang represent, link in bio. Hey, Low Gang, babe, you look like a lit dude. We should really hang sometime. That's still relevant. Who knows? Time is but a moving train that has no brakes. Ah!